I'd never been a PM before, so I did a little bit of research. What does a production manager do? What are their responsibilities? From what I found, they help execute the vision of the producer and the director. Reflecting back on the 6-day film shoot as a 4-man crew in production, the main takeaway is there are many roles in film. In this case, the director and the DP for this project, they both had foundations and started as editors. And now they are both working professionally as directors, and they both are camera operators as well. Oftentimes we need to be able to take on various roles, and that's a valuable skill set to have, a flexible member on set. How did this project start out? We met at the rental house and we spent a solid 1 to 2 hours getting all the equipment ready, making sure that the director and the DP who flew from America were satisfied with all the equipment. The director for this project is Alex, who has been doing films with Patagonia for 10 years and has done 127 documentary film projects in that time, which would mean more than one film project per month over a period of 10 years. And the DPL also flew in from America. The fourth person and final person on the production crew was Ken, who's a local sound guy. At the rental house, Ava, the fixer/producer, did accompany us. And when we packed up all the equipment into the van and we drove about 4 hours south to Tainan, where the shoot began. We had a 9-person van, as I mentioned, and the crew was 4 people. The remaining 5 people space in the van we occupied with equipment. I had a feeling that we had too much equipment. I also found out that we were at least one person understaffed. Sometimes it's not that simple as having more crew or having less equipment. There are a lot of other factors to consider. And in our case, we probably went with the correct route by keeping the crew lean, but also being a little bit over-prepared with the equipment that we brought just in case to cover our bases. As these shoot days progressed, I was mostly acting as a gaffer, in addition to the driver, of course. But I would be reporting to the DPL, and she'd be giving me lighting schematics basically on where she wanted the lights. And I was also heavily communicating with the director, Alex, to make sure that everything that I could help out with was taken care of. And I was also heavily talking to Ava, the fixer/producer. And I'd never been a PM before, so I did a little bit of research. What does a production manager do? What are their responsibilities? From what I found, they help execute the vision of the producer and the director. It's true in my experience with this project. Yeah, like I mentioned, I was heavily in communication and contact with the producer and also the director, Alex, but additionally the DPL, and I was also helping her monitor her footage and start and stop recording remotely from her cell phone with the Red app. And for equipment, we rented the FX6 for the camera, and Elle had brought her Komodo from America, so we had 2 cameras. We had a lot of lenses, about 10 lenses actually, so we had a Leica R set from Patagonia. I think that was 6 or 7 lens set. And then Elle had brought 2 Laowa lenses. One was the 9mm zero distortion T2.9 wide lens. And then she also brought a probe lens for macro shots, also a Laowa lens. And then we had Canon 24-105 zoom just to cover anything else that we needed. 90% of the shots were with the Leica R set. For lighting, the main light that we used the most was the Aperture 600X Pro. And then behind that, we used 2 tube lights, and we also had these Aperture brick lights that were magnetic. I think they're called the MC Pros. I think we had a set of 4 of those, and those were used quite a bit. And then we also had a light mat, which I had never set up before, but it's fairly straightforward. It was the F22. And it was pretty cool because it's so compact and thin and light. So about 5 lights that we used when we could. Have you been a production manager before, or are you curious to be a production manager? I still, moving forward, want to get more camera operating jobs. That is my passion, and this job I was happy to be working with both cameras and to be able to build them out, change lenses, media, battery, and also act as a gaffer, which I've always deep down kind of wanted to do. But honestly, after doing this 6-day shoot and moving around all the equipment, it helped me develop a sense of empathy. And even though when I'm on set and I see gaffer and grip teams moving around a lot of equipment, physically challenged and maybe not being paid as much as a DP or how much they should be paid, but actually doing it myself and being paid 50% of what I'm used to being paid, I wouldn't say that it feels unfair, but it just opened my eyes to a better understanding of how many pieces and what it takes to put together a film production. And I think that's the main takeaway that I have from this job, is that there's always multiple roles on a filmmaking set, and most of the times there's not going to be a person that can fully devote to each of these roles. Therefore, a lot of times we need to be able to take on various roles and be flexible and adaptable. And that is exactly what happened in this job. Because yes, we had a director, a DP, me as the PM, and also a sound guy, but clearly there's a lot more roles required to make these into the best films that they can be. Whenever I'm on these jobs, I always try to ask a lot of questions. Something else I found was interesting is talking to the director and the DP, Alex and Elle. They both had very different career progressions. Now, Alex has mostly been working for companies, and Elle has been freelancing her entire career. So that by itself is already two extremes. But then asking Elle, I asked her, do you ever feel the need to niche down? And her experience has been quite the opposite of what I've learned from my research, is that it's generally beneficial business-wise to have a niche. But in Elle's case and in my case, we both have found that we don't really necessarily need to niche down. We just need to focus on our skills as DPs, as camera operators, become the best that we can. And obviously these skills are going to vary depending on what niche you take on, whether it's commercials, short films, documentaries. You're going to become more specialized in certain skill sets, but don't always feel the pressure to niche down. And that's what I'm kind of telling myself now, is I don't need to always see myself as a DP that only films commercials or only films documentaries. It's okay to take on various projects and various roles, and you'll learn a lot this way. And once you gather enough information to understand where you want to go specifically, and in my case, I still want to be a DP, I still want to be a cinematographer and focus on the camera, but taking on this job and learning what it's like to be a PA, to be a PM, to be a gaffer, to be a first AC, I hope to continue to learn different skills that will help the team as a whole. It's not just about becoming proficient in the skills in your role, but being able to understand other roles and how we can work together to have an aligned vision. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed these behind the scenes clips. Please leave a comment below and like this video, subscribe for more filmmaking content, and I'll see you in the next video. It's important to know who you are in terms of what role you have, but then it's also equally important to be able to branch out and take on other various roles as projects require. When I quoted for this job, I actually quoted 50% of my normal day rate. In my mind, that would be a fair price point, given that I haven't actually had experience doing this role before. And I didn't know exactly what it would require, but I knew that I checked all the boxes for the qualifications. Later on, I actually found out that the quotes that the producer received were half that of my quote. And because my quote was 2 times higher than other people's submissions, she chose me because I understood the value that I can provide on an international production.